Now it is? Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your little thing of yarn, and you don't want to keep it this way. You want to put it in a ball, because if you start working with it and it's like this, like the more you work, this is just going to get tangled and it's a mess. So you put it in your own little ball. It's the cat's favorite part. Just kind of like sit here and suck it up and do it, because you'll thank yourself like much later on. You can stop it.
And the waters.
Okay. So what you're going to do now that thing's in the ball, you should probably get like a thicker yarn, and if you're just starting, you should probably get one that's of solid color, so if you make a mistake you can kind of see where it is, because like I know that all like the super cool colors look crazy attractive, but some of them. So so you want to start off by making a simple slip knot.
Simple slip knot.
And you're just going to kind of like cross the yarn and hold it, and then behind it you're going to cross the yarn again and put the smaller one through the bigger one, and it's just going to make a simple slip knot. And I'll show you one more time. You cross the yarn, you make a loop, and then you make another loop, and then you put the second loop through the first loop and pull it. And then you're going to take your knitting needle, you're going to put that onto your knitting needle, and you're going to do what's called a long tail cast on. So this is your yarn, this is the string that's connecting to your yarn, this is your yarn that's just the tail, just the end. And you're going to take it, you're going to put the end and the yarn to be worked right next to each other on your hand like this. So it's going to go like inside your hand. And then you're going to put your thumb around the side that is the tail, and your pointer finger around the side that is to be worked. And then you're going to take this and you're going to pull it down. You're going to take your knitting needle, and on the left side of your thumb you're going to go and grab that from underneath, and then you're going to go up to your pointer finger, grab that, and you're pulling it back through and dropping the rest down. I'm going to show you again. You're going from your thumb to your pointer finger. Oh no, I messed that one up. So you grab your two yarns, and you're grabbing from the bottom of your thumb to the one in your pointer finger, and you're pulling it through. You split the yarns from the bottom to the top. And I'm going to send you a video on this as well. Split the yarns, grab it from the bottom to the top. And then you should probably start off by doing just a simple scarf. Something small. I would say no more than 15 stitches. Already I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches on here. So I'll do 5 more stitches. Do maybe like a 10 stitch scarf to start off. Fuck that one up too. Make sure to grab it from the bottom. I keep wanting to grab it from the top for whatever reason. So that's 6 stitches from the bottom to the top. 7. Bottom to the top. 8. The girl in the video that I'm going to send you does it really well. And she does it much slowly. I have an issue with doing things slowly now. Because once you learn to like knit quickly, you don't want to slow down. Let's see, now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches on it. So start off with something like 10 stitches. What? Okay. Did you start it? Oh, okay, alright. So you have your 10 stitches, and then you're going to want to divide it because you have your yarn, that's your tail, and you have your yarn to be worked. You're going to take your needle. Also, I see that you already had these needles. You should maybe, if you decide to like knitting, invest in what's called a circular needle, which looks like this, because they're connected, which means you can work longer pieces, but also they're less likely to lose. I have an issue where I'll be knitting and then I'll go to grab shit out of my knitting bag and this one needle's gone and I'm stuck with with one needle, and it's the worst thing ever. Okay, so you're going to divide your yarn That's your tail. You don't want to work with your tail. You want to work with your 2B knit yarn. And then you're going to take your needle, and on the first stitch right here, you're going to put your needle into the front of it, exit the back. With your 2B worked yarn, you're going to loop around the back of the needle, and you're going to pull it through to the front. And then when you do that, we're not going to be using the stitch anymore. You're just going to drop it off. And you're going to do that all the way across. So this is your basic knit stitch. You're taking your needle, you're going through the front of the stitch to the back. You're taking your yarn, looping it around. You're going to pull it through to the front and then drop off that stitch that you just worked. From the front to the back, and you're going to kind of go like through it. So you're not going to go like straight down the middle. You're just going to go from the front and then exit through the back side of that stitch. And loop around, pull that new yarn through, drop off the old stitch. From the front to the back, pull that new yarn around. Now it looks kind of bumpy because my yarn's stupid, but don't mind that bump. Now the first row is going to be kind of taut to work with, but as you work with the yarn, it's going to loosen up. The tighter you do your stitches, the tighter your knit's going to be, the less leeway you'll have. And then you can always like work looser as well, so your work won't be so tight. But regardless, over time, no matter how tight or how loose you knit, it's gonna kind of even out the more you wear whatever you're making. Okay, so that was your first row. Alright, so I taught you your basic knit stitch. That's where you go through the front to the back, loop over, pull through, and then you drop off the stitch that you just worked. And then I'm going to teach you your other basic stitch, which is purl. And when you purl, you're going to have your yarn forward facing actually. So instead of having your yarn in the back, it's going to be forward. And whenever you cross yarn, you're never going to go around or under. Okay, so you're never going to go under. You're always going to take your yarn. Oh, get back on there. You're going to take your yarn, you're going to go over your work. That's what's called yarn over. You'll see it abbreviated as YO if you're ever looking at a pattern. And then so for purl stitch, you're going to take your needle, and you see how you have the two sides of the loop. You're going to take your needle and you're going to go through the front to the other side of the front. Then you're going to take your yarn and you're going to yarn forward. Pull it through and out. So from the front, you go down the front. Oh no, I'm sorry. So you're going to go through the back, pull back. Through the front, you're going to loop it over the back, pull towards the back. You can see it come through that way and out. I personally hate purl stitching. So through the front, around the back, through the back, and pull it over. It's kind of like reverse knitting. Through the front, around, pull through to the back, up and over. Front, around. It's getting kind of tight. Through to the back, over and out. But once you get into the hang of it, it's fine. I still prefer regular knitting. Most of your beginner level stuff is going to be based on your purl stitch and your knit stitch. Then There will be a lot of instructions where they want you to yarn over, which is what I showed you before. There's also what's called dropping a stitch. You're just going to pull it over to the next needle, and then you could keep working. This is your knit stitch, but you won't need it too often. If you want to make a simpler scarf cuter by improving your purl and knit stitch, you can just do 1 whole row purl and 1 whole row knit back and forth like that, and that'll create a much more diverse pattern on your beginner level scarf. It'll also make you feel more fulfilled than just having to do 1 stitch over and over and over and over again for a whole piece of work, and you're still learning your most necessary basic things. Okie dokie. That should be everything that you need to start. Okay. So this is what I was kind of showing you earlier. If you wanted to do one side of knit stitching and then one side of purl stitching, so it looks like you have a different kind of pattern on each side. Your purl stitching looks kind of like your stitches are being pulled up a little bit. It looks like your work is more vertical almost. And then if you're knit stitching, it's a bit more back and forth, very horizontal looking. While I hate purl stitching, I actually think it looks prettier than knit stitching, because this just looks a little bit more basic, but kind of in the long scheme of things, like this whole piece of work is just knit stitching back and forth. So by the time it's all done, it still looks good. But once your work is done, you're going to cast off, and I'm going to teach you how to cast off. So you're going to work the first stitch like normal, a knit stitch. Let me turn off House of Cards going in the background. Let me pause that. Okay, so your first stitch is going to be a knit stitch, and then you're going to do a second stitch as well. And then instead of going to the third stitch, you're going to take your first stitch and loop it over the second one. And then you're going to keep going like that. So you're going to work a stitch, and then once you have 2 stitches on your second needle, you're going to take the last stitch and pull it over the new one. So work a new stitch. That's going to leave you 2 stitches on this needle. You're going to grab it and pull it over the new stitch. You're going to go all the way across like that. So I'll show you really quickly. Grab it, pull it over. It's one of the most satisfying things to end a piece of work. Kind of straighten it out some. I'm going to grab it, pull it over. We just have 2 more stitches left. Grab her and pull her right over. Okie doke, so this is the last one. Then you're going to grab it and pull it over. And you're going to have this one kind of knot left, this one piece. You could take your yarn, cut it, and you could just pull it through. I don't want to cut it just yet because I'm still actually going to use this yarn, but you can just like pull it through and end it like that. There you go, and you have your little knit side, and you have your purl side. All done. Super cute. That's your end. That's your beginning. Okay.